My name is Tucker, and I am a 25-year-old graduate student in a neuroscience program. I am also interested in math and quantum mechanics. I'm interested in Dungeons and Dragons and a number of other things. Um, an idea that me and a family member have been floating around for a while now is the idea of doing an ASMR that can sort of double as a sort of info dumping ground. Um, sort of a way to talk out some of the things that I'm interested in. I'm also autistic, and sort of that feeds into that idea really strongly. The name that I had come up with for this a while ago is ASDMR, and so this is my first attempt at this, and see where this goes, and see if this is something that people like. Um, if anybody does have any feedback about this, I'd happy to listen and see what people have to say. Thank you for listening and watching. Um, so for this video, I'm going to work on a character concept that I came up with for the D&D game that I run with my siblings and their friends who are all around 10 and 11 years old. The character is would be like a cultist for the Greek god Asclepius, who's a child of Apollo. Asclepius was given the ability to heal people, and he became so good at it that people stopped dying, and he was able to bring people back from the dead. Um, so, in addition to that, a lot of the uh, lore about Asclepius has to do with snakes, and there's a main temple to him in a town called Epidaurus, which was like a little resort town, and people would go there if they were like blinded or sick and could be healed there. And part of that healing process might involve going into this little labyrinth and sort of getting lost in it, and then ending up in a pit of snakes. And that was believed to be a way to be healed by the god. And the snakes that inhabit this area are called Asclepian snakes, and they are non-venomous, non-poisonous snakes, but they get pretty big, like a meter long. So for the D&D character, as a cultist of Asclepius, I'm thinking of someone who would be a healer of some kind, but with a significant snake bend. The race that most fits with this concept is the Yuan-Ti pureblood, which themselves are snake-like and have the ability to uh, cast an animal friendship spell on snakes at will. So they have some innate ability to befriend snakes, which fits with this idea here. They also get an additional poison spray. It's a cantrip. If you're someone who is familiar at all with Dungeons and Dragons, for those of you who aren't, cantrips are spells that you can use over and over again. They don't require a spell slot or anything like that. It also, the Yuan-Ti purebloods are able to cast the spell Suggestion once per day. And Suggestion is an enchantment kind of spell that you have like two sentences that you say to someone, that you make a suggestion which is supposed to sound very reasonable, but wouldn't be something that would harm the person that you're using it on. Um, and it can last up to 8 hours, and you can sort of decide on condition under which they do the thing that you're discussing or not. Um, need other screen needs to not shut off. Um, let's see. So the that's where we're starting with this characters with the Yuan-Ti pureblood. I've looked at a number of different subclasses as possibilities for how to build this, and two particular ones stand out. And I'll be showing that here for this. The first one that I'm going to show here is the Circle of the Shepherd Druid, which has some useful features that help with healing others and also with supporting summons. So it has the idea that you will perhaps summon a number of snakes and you can use them in combat or out of combat. Um, you can be healing your allies, and you have ways of sort of um, buffing your allies and sort of helping in combat without necessarily needing to get in the fray. An alternative possibility that comes to mind is the Divine Soul Sorcerer, which I'll probably do as a separate video. The Divine Soul Sorcerer is appealing because you get the normal benefits of being a sorcerer, which includes like meta magic, and the uh, font of magic abilities, but you are also able to get full access to the cleric spell list, which is definitely a really strong spell list. And so that is giving you a much wider range for the utility of the character to be able to do that. While sorcerers themselves get pretty, have a very restricted amount of spells that they get to cast. So that'll be for a separate video. Now, one of the things that sort of came out here as I started to think about the what the build is for this character, when I was thinking about what the background was, the idea that maybe they're not really a believer of Asclepius, but they are using that as a front, as like a way of tricking people, maybe to lure people into the feeling of sort of comfort and safety, as like a charlatan, some way of cheating them. That adds an extra dynamic, and that would be, maybe interesting to see how that would play out. Anyway, I'm going to go into the screen share here so that I can start working on the character sheet with you guys. So here we go. First of all, we have the character sheet here, which I'm going to blow this up. And this particular character sheet that I'm looking at actually allows you, it's something that was I downloaded from DM's Guild, which has all of the basic Druid features built into it already. So I'm going to start by just filling in some of the basic information here. So the Yuan-Ti pure blood. And like I said, I'm going to go with Charlatan. At least for now. Maybe I'll change that. Between the normal Yuan-Ti kind of stuff and the Charlatan, it's looking more like a neutral evil kind of thing. Not evil in the way that he would necessarily want to hurt anyone. Again, he's going to be focusing on healing, but that he's got some sort of ulterior motive that, maybe healing is a means to a different end. The players are currently all at level 3. I don't expect that this character will come in before level 4, so I'm putting it in as level 4. And as noted, I'll be doing the Circle of the Shepherd for this particular build. Now at level 4, you've got a +2 proficiency bonus. And let's see what else we need to put in here. The standard array isn't really the most appealing option in this case because our primary stats that we're going to want high are Constitution and Wisdom. And with the sort of deception ideas with the Charlatan, having a higher charisma is also helpful. Now, with the Yuan-Ti pure blood, the normal casting stat for that is charisma. But as the DM for my table, one of the rules that I allowed for is that where you have a racial trait that gives you the ability to cast spells, and you have spells that you can cast for your class, I don't force you to use the normal stat. I'll let you use your class's stat instead for your racial traits if you have a different one. So Yuan-Ti Pureblood get dark vision up to 60 feet. They have immunity to poison as well as the poisoned condition. They have magic resistance, and magic resistance gives them advantage on saving throws against spells and magical effects. In addition to that, they have the innate spellcasting feature, which gives them let's see, does this and just see if this has a spellcasting page attached to it. It does not, so we'll need to do that as a, oh no, it has it right here. Okay, I'll throw them in here. I'm not going to note everything about this innate spellcasting right here. I'm just going to have it there. So for starters, they get poison spray. I need to be able to see what I'm doing here. Poison spray, which is a con save, and it'll be 1d10 poison damage. Or no, it's actually 1d12 poison damage. And when they go up in level, that will increase to 2d12 poison damage and eventually up to 4d12. In addition to that, they have the animal friendship ability, which they can cast on snakes at will. So that is a wisdom saving throw. And then the other ability here is suggestion, which is I'll check it real quick. Suggestion is also a wisdom saving throw. And suggestion is 1 time per day, or 1 time per long rest, rather. And those are always prepared. Poison Spray is a cantrip, Animal Friendship is a first level spell, and Suggestion is a second level spell. Okay. Now, I'm going to use this, just going to use this room right here in this box to look at the character stats. For 27 points in point buy, we can, let's see what we can build. I'm gonna open up a window here in Firefox or Google Chrome, whatever I use here. It's the point buy calculator. This fun chicken dinner site. Okay, so for starters, I can go in here and select Yuan-Ti Pure Blood. It actually needs to select though. And when I do that, it notes that there's a +2 to Charisma and a +1 to Intelligence. Now, as a Druid, neither of those things are particularly helpful to us, so I'm going to just knock that 15 all the way up. I also want to have high Constitution, so I'm going to bring that up. I don't particularly, let's see. It'll be worth it to bring the Charisma up some because of the Deception with the Charlatan. And let's see. Dexterity is a definitely very useful stat, so not having that sitting at the bottom is good. But let's see, what does this put us at? A strength of 8, dexterity of 14, constitution of 15, intelligence of 9, wisdom of 15, and charisma of 12. For the since I'm starting at level 4 as well, I also will have 2 additional points to be able to put in, which I'll throw into Constitution and Wisdom. So that makes those 8, 14, 16, 9, 16, 12. So we'll put this in 8, 14, 16, 9, 16, 12. So that gives us modifier of +1, modifier of +3, modifier of -1, modifier of +3 here, modifier of -1, modifier of +2. To anyone who is not familiar with how these modifiers work, you subtract 10 from the number here, the larger number, and then you divide by 2. And when you divide, you round down. So here with 8, when we subtract 10, we're at -2. When we divide by 2, we're at -1. So that will give us a strength modifier of -1. So our character is not really particularly strong. This will be mitigated in play, in that as a druid, one of their features is the wild shape, and they can turn into other animals. And one of the things that we'll be able to turn into is the Constrictor Snake. So I'm going to open up a different window here, and it's called Donjon. And initially, it's going to go to a different thing, but I'm going to go to the monster list. So here, this is a nice resource. It'll show you all different monsters, but it'll give you just information about the things that are in the SRD that are, normal, not paid content. So here, just check the character sheet again. At level 4, with our wild shape ability, we can turn into a maximum of CR 1/2 with no flying speed, but we can have a swimming speed. And I note that because the snakes here do have swim speeds. Let's go back to Donjon. So that was CR 1/2 as our maximum. So this here, the warhorse, is the bottom of what that is for CR 1/2. And certainly being able to turn into a warhorse would be a pretty good thing. We also have wolves and velociraptors and some other neat options. But at the moment, I'm just looking for the biggest snake that we can find. So here we have it's a challenge rating 1/4 giant poisonous snake. I can click on that, and we see that as a giant poisonous snake, we can actually get our dexterity all the way up to 18. So if we need an option that's nice and fast, giant poisonous snake could be a good idea. It also can swim, which is helpful, and has blind sight in a 10-foot radius. So that's a nice option if you want to be able to enter into an area of darkness or something like that, where you can't really see the enemies and not have disadvantage against attacks. Doesn't really have a lot of hit points, but that isn't really the biggest worry necessarily if you're just trying to get to someone without them seeing you, or even if you just want to slip past them. +4 dex is going to help with your stealth too. And they can do a nice amount of damage too. I mean, it's 1d4 +4 piercing and an additional 3d6 on a failed save, or half as much if the enemy succeeds on their Constitution saving throw. We have one other option though, which is really the better option versus the giant poison snake, is the Constrictor Snake. Now the Constrictor Snake is actually a large beast, whereas the giant poison snake is medium. So here we have 2d10 +2 hit points, so we're a bit hardier, a little bit. It has a higher strength and more moderate dexterity of the two. So I've clicked out of it. And a useful thing that it can do here is that it can constrict its enemies. So when you use this ability, you grapple the opponent, and they are also restrained. So grappling them means that their speed is reduced to 0, though there's an escape DC of 14, so that's going to require their action to try and escape on their turn. When an enemy is restrained, you have advantage on attacks against it, attacks against it have advantage in general. Your allies could come in hitting it too, and the attacks from that creature have disadvantage. And in addition to that, restrained creatures have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. So you could constrict an enemy while you're wild shaped into a constrictor snake, and your ally uses something. If you have a cleric in your party that uses Sacred Flame or a similar spell, they'd have disadvantage on the save, and that would definitely benefit you um, and help hurt them a lot. Now, mind you, you're not a moon druid, so there are definitely other options for how to use your wild shape that are not combat oriented, but that's just something that is good. Now, because of the snake aspect of the character, I'm going to go ahead and add those two forms into the wild shapes known. Constrictor Snake, and the other one was the giant poisonous snake, which is, funnily enough, not as big as a constrictor. And you'd also, at that level, you also are able to become a brown bear, I believe. Again, we can become a warhorse. We could become a giant goat, or a crocodile, or a black bear. Depending on what all you've seen, I would think that you'd have seen a warhorse at that level too. I believe that somebody else in the party might have one, but I'm just going to stick with the snakes for right now. Let's see. Your spell attack bonus is your proficiency bonus plus your wisdom modifier as a druid. So that'll be +5. And the spell save DC is going to be this spell attack bonus, the same two numbers that went into that, +8. So it'll be 13. And we have, cupping from that other chart, we get to use the wild shape up to 2 times per short rest. The maximum CR that we can use is 1/2. And let's see. Our total hit dice will be 4d8 at this level. Our speed as a Yuan-Ti is 30 feet, and our initiative will be +2. I guess I have a question that I never really had thought about before. I wonder if you start a battle wild shaped as a giant poisonous snake, for example, which has dexterity modifier +4, if you would use that for your initiative. I guess that's something to find out. Because I play with younger players who are all new to the game, I have opted to use maximum hit points for these first few levels. So with this character at level 4, with a d8 hit dice, that would be 4 times 8 is 32. And the Constitution modifier of +3 gives us an additional 12 points. So that's a total of 44 hit points. And let's see, what else? So, our proficiencies are the next thing that we needed to throw in here. So, as a druid, we are proficient in light armor and medium armor and shields. And we don't really just get big simple weapons. We really have a rather long list of random things, which I'm not going to put them on the front page here. I'm actually going to put them on the second page because there's another spot that I can use for that. I'll put it here. The features that are, let's see, so we're talking about weapon proficiencies. We've got clubs, daggers, darts. We get javelins, maces, quarterstaffs, scimitars. We get sickles. We get slings, and we get spears. We also, as a Yuan-Ti pureblood, we get the common language. We get draconic, okay, and we get abyssal. And then, as a Circle of the Shepherd Druid, we also learn Sylvan. We have Druidic as a Druid. And one additional thing is that we can communicate with beasts. I'm going to put that there under the languages, as that's where it's applicable. For the tools, Druids get the Herbalism kit. And as a Charlatan, we're going to take the Disguise kit and the Forgery kit. The idea here with the Disguise kit and the Forgery kit is that you have an alternate identity, which you are able to produce paperwork for, any sort of necessary documentation, and that's part of the false identity feature that the background gives you. So I'm just going to put that in. The proficiencies that background gives us. Let's see, I'm just going to... I've got my player handbook in front of me, but I can pull one up in front of you as well. So let's see. The page that I need to get to is... Okay, here it is, page 128. So we'll go to 129, see where that puts us. Somehow that overshot. Don't really know why. Okay. Let's try 110 then. Okay, it still puts you in wizard. Here we go, though. Just gonna zoom out. Don't know why it zoomed in so much. So here's the Acolyte. Now, if we wanted to do this and be more pious, we could certainly do Acolyte. If you wanted to actually be a like a priest of Asclepius, that would make sense. And just be good. And I mean, it's giving you the insight, skill, and religion. Insight is going to key off of your wisdom, while religion is going to be based off your intelligence, which is low. Low for now, anyways. Um, is it possible to do it differently? Sure. I mean, maybe that's something to consider as we look at the rest of the things here for the options. But I'm kind of digging the idea that maybe you're less than honest. Um, so the charlatan says, "You've always had a way with people. You know what makes them tick. You can tease out their heart's desires after a few minutes of conversation. And with a few leading questions, you can read them like they were children's books. It's a useful talent and one that you're perfectly willing to use for your advantage. You know what people want and you deliver, or rather, you promise to deliver. Common sense should steer people away from things that sound too good to be true, but common sense seems to be in short supply when you're around. The bottle of pink-colored liquid will surely cure that unseemly rash. This ointment, nothing more than a bit of fat with a sprinkle of silver dust, can more than can can restore youth and vigor. And there's a bridge in the city that just happens to be for sale. These marvels sound implausible, but you make them sound like the real deal." Well, I don't know. Let's take a quick look at the Acolyte and take a look at some of the other options too. Easier to do that now before we start putting all the skills in. Let's see. So, you have spent your life in the service of a temple to a specific god or pantheon of gods. You act as an intermediary between the realm of the holy and the mortal world, performing sacred rites and offering sacrifices in order to conduct worshippers into the presence of the divine. You're not necessarily a cleric. Performing sacred rites is not the same thing as channeling divine power. Choose a god, a pantheon of gods, or some other quasi-divine being from among those listed in the Appendix B, or those specified by your DM, and work with your DM to detail the nature of your religious service. Were you a lesser functionary in a temple, raised from childhood to assist the priests in the sacred rites? Or were you a high priest who suddenly experienced a call to serve your god in a different way? Perhaps you were the leader of a small cult outside of any established temple structure, or even an occult group that served a fiendish master that you now deny. And it will give us a holy symbol and prayer book or a prayer wheel. It will give us incense, vestments, and a set of common clothes and a pouch of gold. And it also gives us a feature for the shelter of the faithful. So when you find other places where there are, temples to that deity or pantheon, that you would be able to get some housing or assistance, and also that you have places where you could perform your religious ceremonies for your deity. Uh, the, that certainly has its own benefits, and being able to play an honest character versus trying to play someone who's a sneaky character. Um, but let's see what some of the other possibilities are. Criminal, deception, and stealth are certainly good skills, but we're not really looking to maximize our dexterity. Um, entertainer is an idea too that's also sort of charisma focused, though. Um, a the thought here regarding entertainer for why that might be useful at all is that uh, this place where Asclepius was worshipped, the temple in Epidaurus, was a place where there was like a theater and ways of relaxing and just being able to enjoy oneself, and that was believed to be part of the healing process. Um, Though that also potentially would support a different kind of build for this character. Like if you wanted to try doing it as someone who is sort of aside, maybe a bard that was involved in a different kind of role. Um, Guild artisan doesn't really make sense here, nor the other things related to the guild. Hermit is a possibility. Medicine and religion skills certainly are thematic for Cultist of Asclepius. The herbalism kit is something that we get from uh, our druid class already, so we'll have to pick a different proficiency for that. Um, you get a scroll case stuffed full of notes from your studies or prayers, a winter blanket, a set of common clothes, and the herbalism kit. Um, in a life of seclusion, I think this is maybe a little less appealing, the hermit, compared to the acolyte. The acolyte really had been the very first thing I had thought about for this class. I think that's what I'm going to go with here. It's actually the acolyte, so I might swap some of these skills around a little bit. But let's see. So acolyte was insight and religion. So I'm going to fill this in here for the proficiency for religion when it loads. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, so now it recognizes it there. And we're going to do insight. And we have the herbalism kit, but we decided we were going to change something. So I'll say that in addition to the herbalism kit, we could still go with the disguise kit. I think the disguise kit is useful, and I imagine that because of the proximity to the theater, that it's certainly reasonable that you would have some theater experience still, and that would be a tool that you would have learned through that. Um, let's see, what else does the acolyte have us take? Um, it gives us 2 languages. So Well, okay. Now that I'm thinking about it, I realize that their Herbalism kit was with the Hermit. But since we already know Draconic, Abyssal, Sylvan, and Druidic, and we can communicate with beasts, adding 2 more languages seems a bit much. I would say maybe adding something like Elvish to the mix would be fine, but I would honestly rather have the tools. I will throw in Elvish. Why not? So instead of 2 languages, here we've got Elvish and the Disguise kit. Let's see, what else? We picked up Insight and Religion. We don't need a low. We do not need a higher strength. That's fine. I've only gone for Dexterity 2 because I don't really expect to be attacking much with a weapon that requires that. I suppose here that there is still, maybe knocking the charisma down 1 point to 11 and raising up the intelligence to a 10 is better spread. So let's see, then we need to look at what our skills are from our class that we need to take. So, and we'll come back to this page to deal with personality stuff in a bit. Let's jump up to where the Druid is. I think it's probably around 37. That wasn't it. Okay, so this is actually still within the race part of this, so 45. Okay, this is pretty close. So we gotta jump through the bard stuff and the cleric stuff. There are a lot of kinds of clerics, so it's definitely a big section. Okay, here we are with druids. So we're gonna scroll down with druids. Here we have our whole spread. Now at 4th level, we're gonna need to pick 3 cantrips. And we have 4 first level slots and 3 second level slots. So I'm going to note that. Here we go. We have 4 first level slots and 3 second level slots. I'm going to write 3 cantrips. Now, at my table, I also decided that it didn't make sense to me that spells like Thaumaturgy, Druidcraft, and Prestidigitation are not free to anyone when they pick that class. So the first thing I'm going to put in here is Druidcraft. And Druidcraft does not count here towards the number of spells known. Now I'm going to leave some room. But let's see what else. Cantrips to pick. So we've got 3 to pick. I definitely will go with Shillelagh. Shillelagh is a nice cantrip because it allows you to use your wisdom modifier with your weapon attacks with either a quarterstaff or a club instead of using your strength, which is definitely helpful for a character like this who is going to have a higher wisdom but is going to have a low strength, so it actually gives you a way to hit your enemies without spreading your stats too thin. Okay, so there's Shillelagh. I also very much like the cantrip Primal Savagery. Primal Savagery. Let's see. So, Shillelagh is a bonus action to cast and lasts 1 minute. Primal Savagery is a melee spell attack. And it does 1d10. Well, I know what it is as far as that. So it's a melee spell attack, meaning that it's going to use the spell attack bonus, but it does 1d10 acid damage. And as you level up, that will increase. And then, let's see, we'll probably want to have either a non-combat thing or a ranged option, but since our character is really not focused on combat so much, but really just needs to have some options for defense, I think a good option here is probably either resistance or guidance. Let me take a quick look at what the cantrips are that are options for the druid. Just taking a look at the book, we've got Druidcraft, which we already have in there, Guidance, Mending, Poison Spray, which we have as a class feature, Produce Flame, Resistance, Shillelagh, and Thorn Whip. So I need to take a quick look at Thorn Whip and Resistance. And I know I don't have anything going on the screen at the moment. Once I know where resistance is, I can maybe switch to that. Okay, so go over to this book here. Try this page. That says this. I don't know what pages are skipped here at the beginning of the book. But let's see. So we're looking for resistance. We're slow. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's an abjuration cantrip. It is a range of touch, and it lasts for 1 minute. You touch one willing creature once before the spell ends. The target can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to a saving throw of its choice. It can roll the die before or after making the saving throw. The spell then ends. So that's one possibility. Okay, here's Shillelagh. The wood of a club or quarterstaff you are holding is imbued with nature's power. For the duration, you can use your spellcasting ability instead of strength for the attack and damage rolls of melee attacks using that weapon. And the weapon's damage die becomes a d8. The weapon also becomes magical, if it isn't already. The spell ends if you cast it again or if you let go of the weapon. So You can take the Humble Club and turn it into a 1d8 magical bludgeoning weapon, which is definitely much more useful than the standard club. Okay, now let's look for Thorn Whip. So, skip ahead some. Thaumaturgy, Tree Stride. Okay, so here we go. Thorn Whip. It is an action. It has a range of 30 feet. You create a long vine-like whip covered in thorns that lashes out at your command toward a creature in range. Make a melee spell attack against the target. If the attack hits, the creature takes 1d6 piercing damage, and if the creature is large or smaller, you pull the creature up to 10 feet closer to you. The damage also scales. So I'm going to go with Thorn Whip here. And the reason for doing so is this. If you have your allies going down in battle, then they need to be healed. You don't want your enemies that close to them. And Thorn Whip is a spell that is designed to help with that, to help reduce that. So let's see. Thorn Whip, and the damage for Thorn Whip is 1d6. 1d6 what? Piercing. Okay. So there's that. What else? So we have cantrips. New was. It's 3. Well, technically 3 plus 2. So I'll just write 5 since we have them, or 4 rather. Okay. I need to fill in my Druid circle features here. The first of these features is speech of the woods. We have Xanathar's Guide here. These are the circle of the shepherd abilities. And we see this woman here with 2 little puppies, baby wolves. So, second level, it's Speech of the Woods and the Spirit Totem abilities. Spirit Totem. And at level 6, we have Mighty Summoner. At level 10, we have Guardian Spirit. And at level 14, we get Faithful Summons. So we have Mighty Summoner. Here we have Faithful Summons. And at level 10, it is, again, Guardian Spirit. Now, I'm only really interested at the moment in filling in information about the Spirit Totem. Frankly, I don't really need to have Speech of the Woods here, since that is already covered in the languages section. But I'm going to keep it anyway as a reminder. So, Spirit Totem, that is going to allow us to do a few interesting things, and is why we've picked this, well, in part why we've picked this particular subclass. You use a bonus action to magically summon a spirit to a point you can see within 60 feet of you. The spirit creates an aura in a 30-foot radius around that point. It counts as neither a creature nor an object, though it has the spectral appearance of the creature it represents. So that's the totem in the center of that aura. So because it does not count as a creature or as an object, it's not something that people can target, which is important because you wouldn't want this thing to be getting attacked by, an enemy or something. That's not what this is for. Um, it also says that as a bonus action, you can move the spirit up to 60 feet to a point you can see. So on your turn, you can place it down, and on subsequent turns, you can even move it, which is definitely useful if your party's continuing to move along. The spirit persists for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. The effect of the spirit's aura depends on the type of spirit you summon from the options below. Okay, so there's the bear spirit, the hawk spirit, and the unicorn spirit. So I'm going to note that. We have the bear, the hawk, and the unicorn. I'll also note that it's cast within 60 feet, and then it's a bonus action. And bonus action to move 60 feet. And I'll note that it has a duration of 1 minute. Is it 1 minute? Let me check that again real quick. Yes, it's 1 minute. The bear, so I'll just quickly read through them here. The bear spirit grants you and your allies its might and endurance. Each creature of your choice in the aura, when the spirit appears, gains temporary hit points equal to 5 plus your druid level. In addition, you and your allies gain advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws while in the aura. So, what I'll note here is that you gain. So, let's see, you get a bonus of 9 temporary hit points since this character is level 4, so it's 4 plus 5. So 9 temporary hit points. For the creatures that are in the aura. Plus we get advantage on strength saving throws and checks, ability checks. So if you wanted to break out of a grapple or something like that, or if you're trying to grapple an enemy, then you would have advantage. And if a wolf came into the aura and tried to attack you, you would have advantage on the strength save to not get knocked down to the ground. Then let's look at the hawk real quick. The hawk spirit is a consummate hunter, aiding you and your allies with its keen sight. When a creature makes an attack roll against a target in the spirit's aura, you can use your reaction to grant advantage to that attack roll. In addition, you and your allies have advantage on perception checks while in the aura. So the use here, again, and the flavor text is helping us understand what it's for. You can use your reaction to grant advantage to the attack made against a creature in the area. So this is not a defensive ability, but an offensive one. So it comes around to your rogue's turn in the party, and you can use your reaction to give them advantage on the attack so that you can really make sure that that sneak attack damage comes through. Or really help make sure that those attacks stick that need to happen. So note here, you have advantage on perception. Actually, it's not just perception checks though. It's yes, okay. You and your allies have advantage on perception checks in the aura, while in the aura. Perception and gives you a reaction ability to grant advantage to an attack against target in the aura. Can actually just do that right there. Okay, now the unicorn is the last one of these. The unicorn spirit lends its protection to those nearby. You and your allies gain advantage on all ability checks made to detect creatures in the spirit's aura. Advantage to detect creatures. In the aura. And what else do we get? If you cast a spell using a spell slot that restores hit points to any creature inside or outside the aura, each creature of your choice in the aura also regains hit points equal to your druid level. So that means that when you cast a spell to restore hit points like Healing Word, everybody inside the aura that you choose can get, in our case, 4 additional hit points. So that is definitely a way to really improve the healing output of your healing spells. So plus 4 hit points to all creatures to all in the aura if you cast a healing spell. And I don't need to be as specific about getting to whether it's inside or outside. I understand that that's in order to distinguish that the feature does not care whether the creature you're healing is inside or outside the aura. It's just that the aura is active. So anything inside of the aura can receive that benefit, no matter who you're healing. Let's see. So, and those numbers will change as we level up, because they are based off of what your druid level is, and your wisdom modifier or something for some. The Mighty Summoner, Guardian Spirit, and Faithful Summon abilities I'm not gonna fill in right now since we're just level 4 at the moment, but I will read through them. Mighty Summoner. This is at 6th level. Beasts and Fae that you conjure are more resilient than normal. Any beast or fae summoned or created by a spell you cast gains the following benefits. the creature appears with more hit points than normal. 2 extra hit points per hit die it has. So that is essentially the benefit that you get with the tough feat. You get 2 hit points per hit dice. And that is going to extend to every creature that you summon. So if you use if you're using your conjure animal spell, for example, and you're getting 8 uh, 8 CR1/8s or something like that, then get a pretty solid benefit there because every single one of them is going to get a number of extra hit points, and it'll definitely add up. Uh, what's the other benefit here? The damage from the natural weapons is considered magical for the purpose of overcoming immunity and resistance to non-magical attacks and damage. That's definitely important because when you're spending the spell slots and taking the time to have these summoned creatures with you to help with combat or outside of combat, definitely is important that they be able to actually deal damage, even against stronger foes. Guardian Spirit. See, your spirit totem safeguards the beasts and fae that you call forth with your magic. When a beast or fae that you summoned or created with a spell ends its turn in the spirit totem aura, that creature regains a number of hit points equal to half your druid level. So your summons can continue to gain hit points as long as they're within the aura at the end of their turn. That's pretty cool. Faithful Summons is definitely an awesome ability here. Starting at 14th level, the nature spirits you commune with protect you when you are the most defenseless. If you are reduced to 0 hit points or incapacitated against your will, you can immediately gain the benefits of Conjure Animals, as if it were cast using a 9th level spell slot. It summons 4 beasts of your choice that are challenge rating 2 or lower. The conjured beasts appear within 20 feet of you. If they receive no commands from you, they protect you from harm and attack your foes. The spell lasts for 1 hour, requiring no concentration, or until you dismiss it. No action required. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. Now, I went and checked on this before, but a CR2 creature that would be eligible for that ability there is this, the giant Constrictor Snake, which is a huge beast, which is even bigger than large. Definitely a massive creature, which has HD12 plus 8 hit points. And we'll recall here that we get an additional 2 hit points per hit dice that it has. So here, that's going to be an additional 16 hit points. On top of this, it has a strength of 19, so it's got a +4 to strength, and a dexterity of 14, which is moderate. It also has blind sight like the other snakes did, and it has the bite and constrict attacks as well. The constrict attack having a DC of 16 here, and being able to restrain the enemies, which is definitely a really helpful condition to be able to apply in the middle of a battle to help your allies. The other things that are included here, aside from the giant constrictor snake, within the list of CR2s, you've got some dinosaurs, the giant constrictor snake. There's also the swarm of poisonous snakes. which I don't know that you would necessarily want to do this. They have many fewer hit points. 8d8 compared to the other, which was 8d12 plus 8 before you get that bonus. Um, Clicked away from it again. But the swarm of poisonous snakes has a number of conditioned immunities that sort of arises because it is a bunch of creatures, so you can't trump them all. Frighten, grapple, paralyze, petrify, prone, restrain, stun. Definitely useful. And it is a bit more damage dealing than the Constrictor Snake in that you've got a base damage of 2d6 piercing, and an additional 4d6 poison damage if they fail a save, or half as much if they succeed. And if when they get down to lower health, they deal less damage. But I suppose that in certain circumstances, having the swarms could be useful, though frankly the control effect of the giant constrictor snake is definitely a really big benefit, which, I mean, ideally this character is never going to go down and is never going to have to use that ability. But having the constrictors able to help your party end the fight would definitely help a lot in a dangerous situation. So that is the Faithful Summons ability. Now let's take a look at our character and see what else we need to do here. Okay. So, well, for starters, we changed the Charlatan to Acolyte. And part of changing it to that is that we change it to good rather than evil. And let's see. We need to pick our other skills. So we have the religion and insight skills. Our insight is going to be +5, and our religion skill will be +2. So, let's see what else is in the Druid skill list. They have picked 2 from Arcana, Animal Handling, Insight, Medicine, Nature, Perception, Religion, and Survival. So perception is definitely a useful skill. And medicine, I think, is probably a decent option, but yeah, I guess I'll go with that. Medicine and perception. Animal handling has less to do with having animal allies and more to do with having like mounts and stuff like that. And with our animal friendship ability, we would being expected to have more charisma-based interactions with snakes rather than interactions that have to do with control. So let's fill in these skills here. The proficiencies are +5 for anything that's in wisdom that we are proficient in, and it's just +3 for things that we're not proficient in, since our base wisdom modifier is +3. We also have proficiency in intelligence and wisdom saving throws, so I need to note that. Our intelligence and wisdom saving throws. So that's actually a +5 for that one as well. Intelligence, we're going to get +2. And then we have 0 for these other ones: history, investigation, and nature. Charisma will have +1. I'm going to copy that so I don't have to type it in everywhere. We have a +3 for Constitution saving throws right now, though we'll obviously be interested in taking the resilient feat to take Constitution saving throw proficiency eventually, and we'll want Warcaster in order to help with casting the spells in the thick of battle, and getting an advantage on our concentration saves, because that's definitely an important thing to be able to do. Strength saves are not very common. There are some, but they're not particularly common. So it's kind of okay to have a -1 for the strength. There are really a lot of builds that have some measure of a low stat, a dumb stat. So let's see, my passive perception is 15, and passive insight is 15. So I'm going to put that in right here. So passive insight will be helpful in situations where someone tells you a lie and you're not necessarily looking to see if they're lying, but that you potentially could figure it out anyway. Let's see. The equipment that the druid gets is kind of on the sparing side. You get a wooden shield and a simple weapon, a scimitar or a simple melee weapon, and leather armor, an explorer's pack, and a druidic focus. So there are a couple things to change about that, but it's a start. Let's see, where do I need to put this? Okay, down here for equipment. So I'll note that we have a backpack for starters. And I'll fill in the things from our background. We have a wooden shield. As a weapon, we'll take the club because we can use it with the with shillelagh, and there's not really a situation we would want to do it differently than that. And then the other thing we'll do here is related to armor, and because of the character here, and because we're starting at level 4, so there's already been equipment and other things that other characters have earned. I'm actually going to start with a snake hide armor, and that will have the stats of a normal hide armor, but made from snakes. Someone who is interacting with snakes or is healing people with snakes certainly would have some experiences of the snakes dying, just natural deaths, and would, I think, look to make the most out of that. So, do a quick check in our handbook about the what that equipment is gonna have for the armor class for a hide armor. Okay, these are feats. Ahead of ourselves still. Multi-classing. Okay, now we get into equipment. Go back to that in a moment. Weapons, armor. Okay, at the bottom of this page is the armor chart. Okay, so a hide armor has 12 plus a dexterity modifier of 2. 12 plus 2. So that gives us an armor class 14. With an additional 2 from the shield, as long as we're wielding the shield. I'm going to put in Shillelagh here for the spell for our attacks, because that's going to be based off of our wisdom, so we get +5, and the damage for that is 1d8 +3. And I'll note, with Shillelagh, that's with the club. I'll also put in our other spells here. Primal Savagery is also going to be +5, but it'll be 1d10 acid. And this here is bludgeoning. And then the other poison spray is a save. It's not an attack, so that's not going to go in here. And we don't actually get a different weapon to use. We have Thorn Whip, though. So Thorn Whip is going to go here, because that's an attack roll. So we get a +5, and it's 1d6 piercing. 1d6 piercing, and I'll say pull. Okay. So let's see, at this point, we have got our race, we have our background as the Acolyte, and we have neutral good. We're a level 4 Shepherd Druid. We've filled in our proficiency bonus, passive, and perception and insight. We've got armor class, initiative, and speed, and our hit point maximum. We have each of our stats and our saving throw abilities. So I see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different skills and 2 saving throws. The Yuan-Ti do not grant you an additional proficiency. So we should only be at 4. We do have the innate spellcasting ability, which, as well as the magic resistance ability and immunity to poison, which are both pretty strong features. And then we have the hodgepodge of weapon proficiencies. I need to, so I need to fill in the equipment that we get from our background for the Acolyte. So I'll enter that in. And I need to put put in the Shelter of the Faithful feature here. So we'll write that here though. Shelter of the Faithful. I can't say that I'm exactly ready to fill out the background or personality stuff yet, but that's certainly something that will get done. Um, I'm just gonna fill out the rest of this equipment here, and then I will leave this where it is for now, and I'll make a separate video where we go and take a look at some spells that will be good to pick for this particular character, and where we can maybe just roll out what the personality of it will be with the dice, since the player handbook is designed so that you can just roll. You don't even need to pick. So let's see, just check the player handbook, and we can go back to our Acolyte. Skip. Okay, so we get a holy symbol, a gift due when you entered the priesthood, a prayer book or prayer wheel, 5 sticks of incense, vestments, and a set of common clothes, and a belt pouch with 15 gold. So we'll put it in as 15 gold, though there will be some changes with that too. So, okay, we said backpack. We have the holy symbol. So, holy symbol for Asclepius is going to be something related to the caduceus, which is a single snake wrapped around a staff. So we'll say it's an amulet of Asclepius. In addition to that, he has vestments and incense. It was 5 incense sticks. And was there a censer or something? A prayer book, common clothes. So, prayer book and common clothes. We'll put that there. So, there's that. We're not really getting rope and stuff that are other normal things that people get. And I guess part of that comes along with being a druid, and that you're sort of connected to the wild, so you shouldn't really have all this stuff to carry around with you everywhere. Not nearly as much as other people would. Okay. Join me next time to flesh out the rest of this character, and maybe we'll have some ideas for the names. I'm happy to hear any feedback that anybody has about how this has been. And thank you for listening or watching. Please hit the subscribe button.